The much talked about phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin took place, and Reuters says it went on for more than 90 minutes. The New York Times says it went on for 2.5 hours. The timing aside, what was the substantive part of this conversation? Well, President Putin has agreed not to bombard energy infrastructure in Ukraine for a 30-day period. Only if Ukraine, of course, agrees to do the same. And in return, he's also going to show some more goodwill. So it's not that the entire plan that Ukraine and the US had agreed, the ceasefire plan, the 30-day ceasefire plan, it's not entirely something that will be put in place, but at least halting the bombardment of energy infrastructure is a small yet significant first step. But that also means that fighting can still continue. Russia and Ukraine can continue to fight each other on the borders, they can continue to bomb cities, and they can continue to even bombard civilian infrastructure, as has been happening. So is this really substantive? Well, given that the last 3 years there have hardly been any headway made in talking with Russia, this is a step that needs to be acknowledged. Now, President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, has said he has not yet spoken to President Trump, but he seemed more or less on board with a ceasefire on at least energy infrastructure. Also, President Putin has said he will also show some more gestures of goodwill. This will include returning 23 seriously wounded Ukrainian soldiers, and at a later date, possibly in March itself, 175 prisoners on each side will be exchanged. Now, the reason President Putin is not going ahead with an entire ceasefire agreement is because he certainly wants some guarantees to be in place. What President Donald Trump did clarify is that there was absolutely no conversation on aid being given to Ukraine. This is something that he had talked about multiple times in the past, and it's also something that he had pulled up Ukraine on, especially given that disastrous conversation that took place in the Oval Office.
And right now, you have a lot of guns pointing at each other, and a ceasefire without going a little bit further would have been tough. Russia has the advantage, as you know. They have encircled about 2,500 soldiers. They are nicely encircled, and that's not good.
Now, on one side, President Putin does not want any military aid or any intelligence support to be given to Ukraine at all, not just from the United States, but from any of the Western allies. This is something that, since it wasn't discussed, wasn't really any progress on that. But there's also a few other things that will come up for consideration at a later point. One of them is, what about the territory that Russia currently occupies in Ukraine? 1/5 of Ukraine is currently occupied by Russia, and this starts from 2014, right from the time of Crimea being annexed by Russia. After that, in the east as well, there were areas where Russia still has a significant presence, even as it is trying to push Ukrainian soldiers away from its own region in Kursk. So this phone call wasn't only about Ukraine and Russia. It was also about how the US and Russia can get back to building their bilateral relationship that has all but collapsed in the last many years. And in that, there was a proposal by President Putin that the US and Russia should play ice hockey. Both their teams should visit each other's countries and play ice hockey. It's something that seems to be on the mind of both the presidents, and it seems to be something they have agreed on. So besides halting a war in Ukraine, there's also playing sport, and that's ice hockey. For more such videos, subscribe to SNG News, hit the like button, and also share our videos.